Good evening. This is Monday, May 1st, 2023. We're here for a governing body meeting. I would ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Dennis present and presiding. Councilmember Phila.
Here.
Councilmember Rawlings.
Here.
Councilmember Sipple.
Here.
Councilmember Kane.
Here.
Councilmember Osmond.
Here.
Councilmember Larson.
Here.
Councilmember Harrison.
Here.
And Councilmember Asseltine.
Here.
Thank you. The next item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. So as you're able, would you please rise and we will face the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next item is the approval of the agenda, and 8J is being continued to May 15th, 2023. 8L is also being continued, but to no date certain at this point. So with those two modifications to the agenda, I would entertain a motion to approve, please, as amended.
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
Motion from Ms. Harrison, and I think second might have been from Ms. Larson. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you. The next item is citizen comments. And we have some amended language on our agenda regarding citizen comments that I'd like to read into the record since it's new. Members of the public are welcome to use citizen comments to make comments about city matters that do not appear on the agenda or about items on the consent agenda. It is not appropriate to use profanity or comment on pending litigation, municipal court matters, or personnel issues. Comments should be limited to issues and items germane to the business of the governing body. The governing body will not discuss or debate these items, nor will the governing body make decisions on items presented during this time. Speakers are required to keep their comments to 3 to 5, to keep their comments to 3 to 5 minutes. A total of 30 minutes per meeting is allocated for the citizen comment portion of the agenda. And with that, I will call on, I have one person who's signed in on a non-agenda item, and the second one is for one of our proclamations. So I ask you to come forward, please, and state your name and address for the record. Bob Bertel.
I'm Bob Bertel. I live at 9221 Wenonga Road in lovely Leawood, Kansas. Man, you guys are precious. Jim, it was at the 12-minute and 47-second mark on April 3rd when you thought it was funny that silence equals complicity, and I notified you and your colleagues by email. I just didn't want that to go unnoted because you seem to have trouble remembering the uproarious belly laughs you had about that idea. I was also going to take time this week to talk about Peggy's Senator Elaine Bowers and her seemingly unlimited fixation on anti-trans agenda items and votes, but I also see we have people here from Moms Demand Action, which, if not for the radical right wing of American politics, we wouldn't have to worry about our children dying in schools and guns being the #1 cause of death among our youth, but here we are. Of course you told me you would talk to me at the last meeting and then didn't. It's the same, gaslight, lie, fearmonger, and amplify. I like that you've added some language to the agenda now to make it even harder for people to talk to you, or at least to give you the ability to say they're not on subject. So Deborah said I was defaming people by telling the truth. I think Deborah just doesn't like to hear the truth. So that's is what it is. I think the most troubling part, actually, of the correspondence we've had over the last 2 weeks is when the city attorney indicated this. She says, regarding your last point, the city takes up issues when they impact the city directly. So I had asked why we aren't doing more as a city to have voice in issues like the 2020 election fraud investigation, for which I think we pay part of something that goes to Johnson County that pays for that, but I guess that's not directly enough. The rights of our citizens to bodily autonomy, which Peggy's decidedly against, and our kids to learn about history they find troubling, which again is that whole right-wing extremist problem. It's just interesting to me because I've been reading a lot about constitutional history formation and then Reconstruction history, and I was really under the impression that citizens of the city were protected by the city, but Patty doesn't think that's the case. That had to be a policy decision, which means that it was you who decided that the city should regulate, monitor, and punish, but not stick up for trans kids in our area, or my VP of operations who is a trans woman. You're just silent there, right? So this isn't silence equals complicity. This is inaction or proactive, not taking up issues that you politically disagree with, regardless of what your citizens think. I guess you could poll them every time, which you only seem to do for things that you don't want to do. So just for the record, citizens of the city are citizens of the city and deserve to be protected by the city. Patty, that's constitutional stuff. We're also citizens of the county and the state and the federal government. Now, I know people on your side of the aisle have been at war, literally, with the concept of federalism since the beginning of our country. So it's unsurprising to see the agenda of the former southern states, of which Kansas didn't used to be one, coming out now. So with that, I guess I would turn to, I've got so much to cover, but I don't have enough time. So with that, Patty, you said the city follows the law when adopting or amending ordinances. What Leawood City Code did the council follow in enacting the recent dangerous dog law? So we're not going to take questions. Okay, so there's no way to talk to you now, just so everybody knows. They are shutting citizens out of conversations based on the advice of counsel, and the only reason you do that is if you think you have liability. It's like taking the Fifth Amendment, right? You're not going to talk to me because you know everything I've said is true. You lawlessly made this new law. As a matter of fact, probably one of my favorite parts was the press release that Lucy in her paper put out, where I think it was Marcy sent a memo to the council, and it said 59% of respondents, which is not ward specific because I know Ward 1 voted the other way, because I just know that's who we are, indicated they wanted to keep the city ordinance. Now that's a capital O, so that's a defined term, which means the prior ordinance. At that meeting, staff indicated that they will propose revisions to the ordinance to clarify how the city identifies dangerous dogs. You literally just gaslit us, right? You said, we're gonna keep it, and then immediately went to change it. This is not how the law works. You're lawless. You're abusing your power, and I'm coming for you.
That concludes our citizens who've signed in to speak on non-agenda items. We'll move now to proclamation. And the first one I have is National Police Week, and I'd like to ask our chief to please come forward as I read this into the record, and then I will present it to you. Whereas in 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officer Day, and the calendar week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. Whereas established by a joint resolution of the United States Congress in 1962, National Police Week pays special recognition to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty protecting their communities and its citizens. Whereas police officers of the Leawood Police Department stand watch over our citizens, selflessly risking their lives to protect individuals, families, neighborhoods, and property against criminal activity. Whereas Monday, May 15th, 2023 is observed nationally as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of all the law enforcement officers who, through selfless acts of courage and bravery, made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community. Now, therefore, I, Peggy Dunn, Mayor of the City of Leawood, Kansas, on behalf of the citizens of the City of Leawood, do hereby proclaim May 14th through 20th, 2023 as National Police Week, and hereby publicly salute the service of law enforcement officers in our Leawood community, as well as in every community across the nation. Chief Finger, thank you for your leadership with our fine department and for all you do. Thank you. Our next proclamation tonight is National Gun Violence Awareness Day, and I understand Dee Dee Cooper is present, and would you like to come forward? And I will read this into the record and then present it to you, and if you have anything you'd like to say afterwards, you may do so. Whereas every day, more than 120 Americans are killed by gun violence, alongside more than 200 who are shot and wounded, and on average, there are more than 17,000 gun homicides every year. Whereas Americans are 26 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other high-income countries. Whereas Kansas communities are not immune to gun homicides and assaults. Whereas cities across the nation, including Leawood, are working to end the senseless violence with evidence-based solutions. Whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people with dangerous histories. Whereas mayors and law enforcement officers know their communities best, are the most familiar with local criminal activity and how to address it, and are best positioned to understand how to keep their citizens safe. Whereas gun violence prevention is more important than ever as we see an increase in firearm homicides and non-fatal shootings across the country, increased gun sales, and increased calls to suicide and domestic violence hotlines. Whereas in January 2013, Hadia Pendleton was tragically shot and killed at age 15. And on June 2nd, 2023, to recognize the 24th birthday of Hadia Pendleton, people across the United States will recognize National Gun Violence Awareness Day and wear orange in tribute to Hadia Pendleton and other victims of gun violence. Whereas by wearing orange on June 2nd, 2023, Americans will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. Whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our families and communities safe. Now, therefore, I, Peggy Dunn, Mayor of the City of Leawood, Kansas, do hereby proclaim June 2nd, 2023 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Ms. Cooper, can I hand you this? And thank you very much. And if you want to bring any of your folks forward, sure. Sure.
Get a photo.
You want everybody to stand with you? Shall we stand around behind? Why don't you all come this way? Otherwise, we'll be. Oh, yeah,
the photo?
we need her.
Come on, Vicki.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here, and if you'd like to say word or two,
Yeah, I
please
have
do.
a very brief, just thank you very much for signing the Gun Violence Awareness Proclamation, as Mayor said, and thank you to Chief for all the work you do for the citizens of Leawood in Kansas. This is the 9th year that Gun Violence Awareness Weekend has been nationally recognized. Sadly, in the last 10 years, deaths in Kansas have gone up 102%, gun violence deaths. So our work continues. And now we have it as gun violence is the #1 cause of death of children in America. So our work is continuing and very important. We are encouraging people to acknowledge gun violence awareness the weekend of June 2nd through 4th by lighting buildings orange. We have a couple churches nearby, some corporations that are doing that. We encourage private citizens to put orange light bulbs on your front porch. Obviously, proclamations aren't the total answer, but raising awareness to this growing problem in our country. And that's what we want to do with Gun Violence Awareness Weekend. We are having a blood drive that week, the Moms Demand Action Group, which is part of National Everytown. But the Johnson County chapter is having a blood drive at the community center, or the Community Blood Bank on 105th and Metcalf. And the day of Saturday, June 3rd in the morning, we will be at Meadowbrook Park for a peaceful walk, raising gun violence awareness. So, any other questions or thoughts?
Julie, Ms. Kane.
I just have a statement. Thank you. Thank you for all that you do. I have 2 precious grandchildren. My 3.5-year-old grandchildren now has, at preschool, an active shooter drill. 3.5-year-old preschool. It makes me cry to think that that precious little girl is getting active shooter drills because of the madness going on with all the guns. The madness going. So thank you for all that you're doing. And
You're welcome.
And all that we can do in our police force, which is so excellent. And
Yeah.
it takes a village, and it's craziness
Supporting
out there.
police is such a big part of our work because of the risk that they take every day.
Right.
Who knows who that has a gun that shouldn't have it,
Yeah.
so.
Mr. Rawlings, did you have your hand up
Yes.
too?
Where can I get a shirt?
Wearorange.org.
Thank you.
That was my question. Is there a website?
Oh, yeah. Jeanette reminded me that we are called Moms Demand Action, but we have men who are involved and not, not necessarily just mothers. The leader of our survivor network in Kansas, in Johnson County, is a male who was a gun violence survivor. So, and I also should mention our Johnson County chapter was started by a gun owner. It's not like we're against guns. It's about responsible gun ownership. And so there's lots of ways to accomplish that.
Well, we really
important
do
to know that.
appreciate your good work.
Thank
and-
you.
And your
Thank you for acknowledging
advocacy
it.
on this important matter. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We have no presentations or recognitions. We have no special business. We move now to consent agenda, items 8A through W. And I will ask one question, and that is if Mike Blen is present. Is Mike Blen here this evening? Seeing that he's not, I won't pull that item off for comment. And I'll ask, Mr. Sipple, would you like to pull something?
Before we got to the consent agenda, you went, which ones are being deferred or removed? I didn't mark on my sheet.
8J,
8J,
continue to the next meeting, May
Okay.
15th. And 8L is continued indefinitely at this point.
thank you.
Sure. Is there, Ms. Kane?
I was going to pull 8J, but if it's continued, that's great.
Yeah.
But I would like to pull 8I, please.
8I. Anything else anyone want to pull?
Move to approve the remaining items?
Second?
Motion from Mr. Sipple, second from Mr. Asseltine to approve the remaining portion of the consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you. 8I is approve the 2023 funding and payment to the Leawood Stage Company in an amount not to exceed $41,700 pertaining to the annual summer show Beauty and the Beast. Ms. Kane.
Yes, thank you. Serving on the Arts Committee for a number of years, this is maybe more top of my mind than some others perhaps. I was happy to see that the amount of funding request for 2023 was significantly down, $41,700, and that was because the location of the Rose Theater is chosen as opposed to having it at the amphitheater. In 2022, you can see the budget was $65,520. You'll recall they didn't have the production last year, so 30,000 some odd dollars was returned to the city and placed into the General Arts Fund, I think is how I say that. So that's all well and good. But we had this discussion before. I understand they've already, Leawood Stage Company has already done a proposal for 2024. This is for 2023. And I would like to respectfully request before we approve any funding for 2024, we have the work session that we talked about before, loosely talked before about, just about this subject matter. Because if you read the smaller print, this ends up, there's 45 days of practice rooms, and there's a lot that goes into this besides this, in this case, $41,700 that I think is worthy of a discussion. So I would like to, at some point, the appropriate time, have that discussion in a form of a work session with the Leawood Stage Company would be fine, or not. That's not for me to say. Thank you. With that, I approve the $41,000 for this year, 2023.
You move for approval.
I do,
Second
yes.
for Mr. Hazeltine. I do want to point out that on the, third page over of 8I, they had approximately $10,000 that was paid last year that is moved to 2023 due to the cancellation of the 2022 production. So this is actually more in the neighborhood of 42,700. I mean,
10,000 or 1,000?
52,000. 52,000.
50, yeah, 50, oh, so thank you for that.
So, yeah.
And
So-
I would like to say that I do really like the MOU that was item number H, because it
Right.
really spelled it out, and clearly we're trying to button this up, which is a good thing in my mind. So thank you for the MOU, which was 8H. But I do move to approve, but I really want a work session for us to discuss the enormity, was the word that I wanted to use, of the whole, that whole subject matter. Thank you.
And that topic will come back, and I want to also acknowledge the MOU, and I know Ms. Bennett had a big part in this, so.
Right.
So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
And I was just going to say, I'm excited that it's indoors, because I can't remember how many Julys it was 104 at 9 o'clock at night. So I actually put it on my calendar. I want to go since it's inside.
Well, it's about as close to Leawood as you can get, you know, being on state line. And I think the fact that we won't have rainouts, and we won't have to
Mosquitoes.
wear bug spray, and the heat.
The heat.
You never know what the weather's going to do. So I think it's a wonderful solution. I hope it's maybe going to be a collaboration that'll be ongoing, perhaps.
Try it in full costume.
Yeah.
Dancing.
If there's nothing else, I know Ms. Stoddard has noted that you would like a work session at some point in the future. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you. Going to the mayor's report. Leawood Police Captain Brad Robbins joined me at the Nativity Dare graduation, where Officer Timohan Babalola, did I say that correctly? Close.
Officer Tim.
We call him Officer Tim, actually. It's much easier. He leads the program, and he does an excellent job with the students. So, and we're sorry you were out of town and couldn't be there. Superintendent of Parks, Dustin Brainick, organized an Arbor Day celebration where a red oak tree was planted on the north lawn of City Hall, and Councilmember Chuck Sipple joined me, as well as Diane Stoddard and Chris Claxton and other Parks team members. And I learned that we've been at Tree City USA for 27 years, and we're now in our 28th year. And I think we might have a photo to show, or a photo or two. That's the group that was there that day. And I thought we had one of them sweating and planting the tree, too. Do we not have? Yes, that's it. It looks really great at the location, and we'll provide afternoon shade for the benches. Another item of note, congratulations on Leawood's Iron Horse Golf Course and Superintendent James Kennedy on being one of 9 Audubon certified golf courses in the state of Kansas. And this is wonderful recognition that I also learned about that day.
What does that entail?
Well, it looks like environmental excellence is part of it. If Ms. Claxton was in here, she could
Birds?
speak to it. Sustainable natural resource management and environmental stewardship.
Wow.
So it's really terrific achievement, and there are only 9 in the entire state.
Wow,
So something to be proud of.
that is cool.
And finally, I want to offer congratulations to Councilmember Andrew Osmond, who's celebrated 13 years on the Leawood City Council on April 26th, 2023. So I think, Andrew, you're on the Zoom call still. Just want to congratulate you on that.
Thank you very much. It feels like a bar mitzvah to me.
Well, good, it should. All right.
Thank you.
Mazel
Thank you.
tov.
Thank you. That's right. That concludes my mayor's report. Thank you, Ms. Strawberg. We have no council members' reports. Ms. Stoddard, did you have any? We have no city administrator report. Your staff reports were consent agenda written documents, which were very well done. So thank you for that. And moving now to item 13A, committee recommendations. This is a resolution approving a revised final plan for modifications to the public works stipulations for 135 mixed-use development located at the southwest corner of 135th Street and Kenneth Road. And we have the applicant present to speak on this issue. If you would introduce yourself with name and address, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Lashbrook, 6885 West 151st Street, Overland Park, Kansas. On behalf of Leawood 135 LLC, I am the applicant. I read the packet. Mark Klein in planning did a very good job at encapsulating sort of the challenges before me. Perfect. Just to sort of refresh what was in the packet. This blue line delineates a 12-inch water main that was installed in 1967. I'm sorry. A 12-inch water main that was installed in 1967 that no one knew it was there. It was not in any of the surveys, excuse me, and not in the ALTA surveys, and so we found it the hard way. So we're working with Water One, who is not even in an easement, so that presents additional challenges. So this line goes all the way to 135th Street, which is part of the area that I'm asking to not construct the walking trail.
Now you can stand closer to it, and you'll be,
The area highlighted in blue or circled in blue is a walking trail that was previously stipulated to be constructed. With the discovery of this water line, is going to take a while to figure that out, who pays for it, creating the new easement, so the water line stays in a proper easement, et cetera. So I think as in conversations with planning, the pedestrian connectivity will not be impeded because there is a sidewalk currently. And so I'm proposing that this be constructed when one of the mixed-use tracks gets greenlit and goes forward. So it's just essentially delaying the construction of the walking trail. With that, I can answer any questions.
One of my questions was who's paying for it, but it sounds like that's still to be determined. I would think maybe Water
You would
One
think.
be involved.
You would think, what I went to Water One with, I says, gosh, your water line is where it shouldn't be, and it's in the way, and it's not even legally allowed to be there. You get into all sort of things, like Patty can understand prescriptive occupation of, they've been there long enough, they can just say, hey, we have a right to be there because we've essentially been squatting. That argument typically works when you have Evergy lines overhead that's visible. This is something that's been underground, no one's seen it, ever. And so I'm not a litigious person, I don't want us to get drawn out, but I basically told Water One, I said, you guys move it to where you want it, and then I'll help secure the easement for you to leave it there. So they have other ideas. So they're asking for a substantial contribution, and we're working through that.
I'm sorry you're going through it. Mr. Sipple,
Rick, on the sidewalk, will the sidewalk remain intact along the west side of the road there while you're doing this? Or is that going to be torn up as part of the construction project?
Currently, the sidewalk that is there will continue to be there after construction of the villa phase that I'm working on now. I don't know if I'm answering your question. The walking trail is, I believe, a 10-foot wide asphalt trail that will be located immediately to the west of the existing sidewalk. And once the asphalt trail is constructed, the existing sidewalk, I believe, remains in place. Or they might take it out.
Is there a sidewalk on both sides of that,
I don't believe so.
or just on the west side? I know
believe just on the
I've
west side.
walked that and ridden that several times, but I just don't know if I thought there was something on the east side, but I might be mistaken. But congratulations on keeping the sidewalk for the next several years. That's good.
Yeah.
any other questions for Mr. Lashbrook from anyone?
Move to approve?
Second?
A motion from Ms. Villa. I don't know, was the second Mr. Rollins, or
There was an echo, either one.
it was Mr. Rollins and Mr. Sipple?
For a minute, I thought we were talking about something in North Leawood, because that's the kind of thing that happens.
If there's no further discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Lashbrook, and good luck with your project. It looks like it's moving right along.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. We have no old business. We have no new business. Before we adjourn, I will note that we do have a work session on Monday, May 15th. The topic is 135th Street Community Plan. That will be at 6 p.m., making our council meeting, therefore, at 7:30 p.m. And those have already been scheduled, so we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.